Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Scientology Outside of the Church podcast brought to you by the Advanced Org of the Great Plains and Independent the College of Independent Scientology.com. This is season 10, episode 20. We have a special guest, Joey McElvain, who is a student on Student Hat on the college, and Arthur Moudakis. Quentin is getting ready to get on a plane at the airport to head back to Malaysia, so he won't be with us today. The topic of this podcast, we don't have a working title yet, but having to do with being yourself and beingness and operating within the confines of the corporate Church of Scientology, and what that entails and how you end up an independent Scientologist. So, Joey, tell us about that.
First, I want to say I'm grateful to you, John, and AOGP.org for what you guys are doing. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Arthur, good to meet you. And
nice to meet you.
Yeah, man. So I'm on Student Hat, and let me first say, when you decide to do Scientology with AOGP.org in the independent field, not only are you going to get the same gains or better as you would in a Church of Scientology, I would say they're better, because the Church of Scientology, as it is now, is out tech. I would say that the support you get is incredible, but also the cost is unbelievable. Like the prices for the course that you see on AOGP.org, if you're thinking, oh my God, don't think that. Whatever you're thinking, just increase. If you're going to go into an actual, not an actual, but a corporate Church of Scientology, you're going to think 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times the cost. Mm-hmm. So whatever you've experienced with the Church of Scientology, if you've had any experience at all, I would say that what you're going to experience at AOGP.org it's going to be better beyond your wildest dreams. So that's what I'm going to start with.
Thank you.
Other than that, a little bit about me, not too much detail within the context of Scientology. I've been studying Scientology for the past, 5 years, something like that, a little bit longer. So since 2017, but COVID kind of put a hamper on that in physical orgs. Mm-hmm. But when I did physical Scientology at an actual org in San Francisco, I got gains, but I never actually got on the bridge because the prices were so unbelievable that if you're working a regular job like myself, I'm just a waiter. I wait tables in San Francisco. I make good money, but my living cost is high, and doing services at the org, which I live close to, by the way, in San Francisco, they're also very high, and they also pressure you very hard. If you're not familiar with the term reg in Scientology, a reg is short for registrar. A registrar is in charge and has a statistic and is measured by how many courses and for how much of a dollar amount they can sell a person or a pre-clear on. Yeah. So their job is literally, if you get out of a course, or if you have a session and finish the course, their job is to literally get you into the success department, have you write a success story, and route you to taking another course immediately. Mm-hmm. To spend money on it. And they're going to do their best to try to get you on the bridge, which is, if you have any experience reading LRH Tech, you know that you need to be on the bridge. You need to be on a route to eliminating your reactive mind and going beyond that. But in a corporate Church of Scientology, if you just work a regular job, that's going to be very hard, extremely hard. If you're not going to take out credit, if you're not going to take out loans. The last I haven't been involved since 2022, but the last I looked, the purification rundown and the survival rundown, which you guys will tell me is out tech.
Yeah, we've mentioned it several times.
But the current Bridge to Total Freedom that you can see posted on the wall, it contains the life improvement courses at the bottom, and then on the right side, the auditing and the processing side, it's going to be the purification rundown, and then it's going to be the survival rundown, and that both of those courses it's going to be like $5,000 at least.
Yeah. Here in Australia, it's about 7,000 Australian.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that's not including the vitamins on top, which will be almost $1,000 on top.
Right. Jeez. Well, I heard a podcast not too long ago that you were doing a Purif.
Yeah, I did. It was super intense, man.
Oh, geez.
It was one of the most intense things I've ever done. But it's kind of weird. Like, as intense as it is, you don't want to stop because the things coming out are just so noticeable. I actually want to do it again. I want to go back in for a second run. I've been a little cheeky since the Purif. And so once I'm in slightly better shape, I want to do it again. Yeah. Yes. We all have our aberrations and shadows and things to work on.
Like to have a couple drinks, hey. I do.
I'm not big on alcohol, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But it's interesting because it's such an intense process, and the clarity that comes with it. It's so easy to break though, and that's what I found since doing the Purif. Like it's easy to break that clarity, hey. And I think that's why you got to just keep being on course. You know, you slip a little bit like I did, and you slip. Like, it's really interesting. Yeah.
So,
wow.
So,
where does this lead us?
Are you going to do it?
Yeah,
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What have you noticed about the difference in tech since doing AOGP versus the church? What have you noticed?
Well, I mean, the original point of this before we started recording was the original LRH definition of granting beingness is like letting a person be who they are, you know? And so with AOGP, like, I'm allowed to be who I am, you know? That doesn't mean don't, that doesn't mean I can skate by without a misunderstood word or, being checked out on course. That means, I just get to be who I am, and so with the corporate church, I had questions. Like I wanted to ask specific things about like what Ellerish was talking about in an article, and this has been like maybe 5 years, but I wanted to ask and go, okay, like, what did he mean, or what did, like, oh, and they were just like trying to clear words, and I'm like, no, I have the words cleared. It's just like, what does this mean to you? And some of them were like getting other staff members to like try to explain stuff to me. And something that was important that led me to the independent community was I talked to other people who had been involved in the independent Scientology community who left. And I was like, why did you leave? And they were like, well, because like, here's why. And the biggest reason is because they knew or met David Miscavige, and they're like, this guy's wild. This isn't the tech that I knew, you know.
Mhm.
And so there's a specific guy from Norway, which John knows. You've interviewed him. I don't know if it's not for me to say his name on the podcast. I can, but he had personal calls with me, and he was somebody who went OT8. He's in Norway, and he's done the entire bridge and also left the church. And it's because he met David Miscavige. And he's like, oh, okay, like all the corruption in the church is from the top down.
Yeah.
And so he left. And so, but then they declared him a suppressive person, all these other things. And so me, before I joined a church, I was curious, but I had seen Liam Remini's documentary. I'd seen Going Clear. I had read various articles. And yes, in Scientology, this is called black PR.
Mhm.
It's, it's negative information about Scientology, but I read it first. However, I came in contact with people who got rich, who had changed their lives, who had changed their marriages, and they credited Scientology with doing these things. And so I was like, wow, okay, I saw all these negative things. And so if they went through this and still were like, hey, Scientology made me successful, I was willing to listen to that. And so I did that.
Mm-hmm.
But I still saw negative information about the church. And so I listened and I talked to people who were outside of the church. And this specific person I'm talking about, not only did they leave the church, and not only were they declared suppressive, but when they spoke to me, first of all, their TRs were in. They were completely listening to me, like completely like, how can I help you? Like John, the first call I got on with John, literally, he said, how can I help you? And he's a busy guy. He runs an organization. He's got shit going on, and he's OT8. And all the first thing he said to me was, how can I help you? I'm just a guy. I'm a stranger to him.
Mm-hmm.
And this other person who's an OT8, same thing. He's like, how can I help you? I was like, oh, well, I wasn't prepared I want these changes in my life. And he goes, okay, good. Yeah, but you're interested in Scientology. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, I'm not with the church anymore, but like, if you want to go with the church, like, do this course, this course, this course, this course, this course. Change my life. And so he wasn't even saying so. And so I had contact with this person who was a suppressive, and I told the church about it. I said, look, I met this guy, and he was an OT8, and he did all this stuff. And they were like, oh my God, well, let us show you some data about him. And they had these, pieces of paper that were like, this person, and like bold heading, like he and his wife, they're suppressive, and here's why. And I'm like, okay, well, this violates your own principles. Whereas, like, if it's true for you, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
This violates your own principles. Like, I know what you're saying to me right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you also said, if it's true for you, it's true. And what's true for me is this person literally said to me, how can I help you? And I said, I want to fix my life in these ways. And he literally said to me, it doesn't matter if you go to an org or if you do it independently, it doesn't matter. You do these courses. And he specifically recommended the TRs and Objectives course, which is not in Scientology orgs anymore. It's the Survival Rundown. They don't want that. They want to do the SRD. So literally he was like, do these courses. These unblock a lot of things for you, and they'll get you a great start to doing all these things in your life. He didn't even say go up the bridge. He said, do these courses. They'll unblock a lot of things for you. And then after that, you'll get more. And so that's where there was a huge disconnect for me with what Scientology was teaching, which is LRH. He said, if it's true for you, it's true. And I was like, literally, I met this person who told me to do these things, and they didn't even disparage Scientology. They were literally like, yeah, well, I'm not with the church anymore, but if you do these courses in the church or out of the church, it doesn't matter. You'll get these gains, I promise. And I did those things. And because I did the TRs and objectives course outside of the church and then went in the church, this is why they literally gave me a PTS label. So I'm not allowed. I am not allowed in a church of Scientology.
That makes two of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Three
of us. Right.
But
Yeah.
how interesting is it though?
Sorry, I rambled.
How interesting is it though?
Meeting each other.
No, that's all right. Not at all. It was good. But how interesting is it though? Like you go through the organization and they tell you to go like in a zigzag motion, and then you come into this organization. And it's like start here, do this, then do this. Then it's so direct and it's in order. It's not do this and we'll see how you go, or put you on a course that's such a steep gradient that you've got to do another course for that course.
Right.
And then you're still not getting it. So then you got to do another course for that course that you just did, just so you can get to this course. And then next thing you know, like everything that was promised is, 6 months ago.
Right.
In some cases, maybe a year. Whereas here,
man.
it's like start here. Yeah. You've already done the study course. Do it again. I need to know that you can do it. Do this again. I need to know that you can do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
At your expense.
Such a contrast. Yes. It's such a contrast. Sorry, John.
Well, no, you're fine. I've got a copy of the 1970s grade chart here off to my left, which is not that different from the 1981 grade chart. And it's very simple. This is the first thing you do, and you get the end phenomena of that. Okay, you got that end phenomena? Yeah, I do. And then you go, okay, this is your next step that you need to do, and so on and so on. And as you go up the bridge, your awareness increases, just like we won't use any names, your Norwegian contact told you. And it's very simple. It's just nice, shallow gradient, one thing to the next, either in auditing or training. You can do training at the same time you're getting auditing, but your awareness increases and you're like, yeah, I see this. I've got this. I want to continue. I like what it is that's happening to me, to my beingness. And it's that simple. It's that simple. It isn't the run over here and do this and run over there and do that. And now you need to do this. And, you need to buy this basic books package, which is a complete arbitrary. There was never anything in Dianetics and Scientology called a basic books package. It was.
Yeah, man.
You know all about that.
I bought it.
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
I did, man.
And that came up. And
it's funny because all those little books. And it's funny because all those little books you'll do in courses anyway.
That's right.
The actual courses.
That's right. And
not only that, but you'll get the complete picture as opposed to a piece of it. And then by the time you've wasted 50 hours going through all those, you could have just done 2-3 courses for the same amount of time, had more data, had more wins and had more gains, and you would have just wasted your time reading all that stuff. It's insane.
Yeah.
Not only that, but like literally during the student hack course, not the student hack course, the basic Scientology fundamentals course, which is on aogp.org for free. I literally read one chapter of Fundamentals of Thought, and I found an alteration which blew my mind, and I messaged John about it. I was like, what is this? What is this? It's just one word.
So
one word.
Yeah.
One word was altered.
Yeah.
One. And I literally tonight I opened the 2007 Fundamentals of Thought book on page 37, it's about the 8 dynamics. On the second dynamic, there's one word, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And he's like, this
Yeah.
is the unaltered version. And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Everything I read, and on the basics course, I've read self-analysis, I've read Dianetics, Science of Survival, Fundamentals of Thought, and Dianetics original thesis. And I found one alteration which made me go, I can't trust any of them. None of them.
Right.
I spent like $700 on all the books, and it's like, I have to throw them all out because one alteration made me go, this is false. I have to read the rest of the original book.
Right. What else? I mean, and I've said this so many times, and it's an OT7, OT5 datum. It's not confidential, but he says the hardest thing to spot is a missingness. If you didn't know that it wasn't there, your comprehension and understanding of that chapter, that paragraph, that book is completely different from one word. Now imagine if it's 20 words, and Science of Survival has been altered.
Oh my God.
So much. And that book is the guide to human behavior and the tone scale. You have to ask yourself, okay, what are the real reasons this stuff has been altered? And that's it's key. And you get into the basic books package and check sheet and all this stuff. It's not an LRH check sheet. LRH didn't authorize this check sheet, and all of those books and everything in the context of them are on the academy levels, are on the St. Hill special briefing course. And you have to read these books in the context of what they were originally intended to do. And you have to understand time-wise where these things go. Now, of course, the academy levels are like the greatest hits in order to get you to be able to audit the lower bridge. But you understand, okay, this is how this stuff works. But if it's altered, you don't really know what you're getting, and now you're being steered in a different direction. And I gave Joey the first printing of Fundamentals of Thought. I said, okay, what you're reading, and now look at the first printing. What does it say?
I mean, and it was what you're saying about those books. I mean, this was just one word, and the word was so controversial and carries so much political, social ramifications that I'm like, oh, this is one word. So imagine the rest of the books and Science of Survival, as of the 2007 printing is like fucking like, it's like 800 pages. It's crazy. It's a thick book. So if there are alterations in a book that has 100 pages, imagine 800 pages. What's altered, and how different. And this is the point of like how different far along the line is a Scientologist behavior who is in an ideal org or advanced org in 2025 versus when you were trained at Flag, John.
Yeah. They're from my standpoint, after being out 20 years, they're almost unrecognizable because you've gotten things taken out of context. You're forced to read particular definitions instead of using dictionaries. They make a glossary that's sanitized for the definitions as opposed to using a real dictionary. And you're not going to know what those changes are because this is your first time reading this material. Whereas if you have the data trail, as LRH calls it, and you're looking at the original publications, they can be, and most of them are, significantly different, which changes the whole viewpoint on so many subjects. It's mind-boggling. So you're not getting real Scientology. You're getting somebody's sanitized, politically correct agenda of what Scientology should be 70 years later. In some cases 50, depending on when the books are published and stuff like that. And the lectures have been sanitized as well. Any mention of Mary Sue Hubbard, Red Sharp, all of these people that he talks about on the briefing course lectures, all of it has been edited out. All of it.
Right.
So you're
Right.
losing context. You didn't know it was there. Hardest thing to spot is a missingness. That's a big deal.
And that's just
That's
talking about
interesting.
it's just, I'm sorry,
Go, Joey.
Art, give me 1 second. That's
Yep.
just talking about books and lectures. That's to say nothing of auditing processes and lists and questions
That's right.
that have been omitted.
Yeah.
And that's to say nothing of like when you're sitting there with an auditor who's going to literally, you guys are both going to go inside your own reactive mind or your own brain. Like, that's to say nothing of that. It's just a book. So
Yeah.
what has been altered in those processes? And that's a scary thought. Anyway, sorry. Art,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like the differences in a lot of those, the original books versus the newer ones as well. The original ones I find much easier to read, and more understandable and more direct as well. Whereas I found a lot of the newer material a lot more confusing. And I've had the opportunity of being able to compare things I've done with AOGP versus what they're offering at the church. Like even the Life's Ups and Down course, it's so different. Like it's
Right.
completely different. Whereas the one that that John got me to do at the time, it was so direct and it was so easy to understand. It was so simple in nature. You couldn't mess it up. You know, it was such a simple course that even a teenager could get through it without too many hassles. But then you look at the newer one and there's so much information omitted and then replaced with something else. And then you can even go back as far as the original TRs, because I'm on the Pro TRs course now. And then I asked John for TR0, and to me TR0 was TR0B there, which is what it was in the church when I did it in the
Right.
church. And he's like, no,
Yeah.
OT TR0, and I'm like, no, it's TR0B there.
Right.
And then I actually
That's
have
the communication version.
the modern, yeah, I have the modern Scientology handbook that I bought through the church. And John's like, no, it's OTTR0. And I'm like, no, it's TR0B there, I swear. So I went and had a look at the modern version. It's TR0B there. And then in the original tech, it's OTTR0. That's it.
Jesus.
And I think they've changed it again from what I understand, where it's TR0, sit comfortably or something like that. They've changed it again.
Mhm.
You know, I just
Yeah.
look at it and just go, why do you need to change this? But the thing is what LRH says is don't change it. Technical degrades,
Yep.
keeping Scientology working. Do what it is that needs to be done this way. Don't change it. But the thing is when the cat's away, the mice have played. And so you it's like that rumor line where you tell one person and they tell another and they tell another, and by the game of telephone at the other end, it's completely misduplicated. That's what's happened over time because of this regime that is running this organization, and people don't know what used to be there. I mean, the wins that you can get from an original communications course are nothing short of incredible for people, and it's a hell of a lot of fun to apply this data. So it's something that if you don't know, you're not gonna know, and you're never going to be aware of it. And that's why it's important to make people aware through this podcast that the gains that they got were diluted if they were in the church, and they can get much bigger gains doing the original material
and faster.
John, are there specific things where you constantly find yourself with people who have been in the corporate church? Are there specific things that you have to correct them on or have them unlearn? And what are they, and what are the most important things?
I spend most of my time handling false, altered data with people because they're like, no, it's this. And I'm saying, okay, so where did that information come from? We've talked about this, handling false data. I think I did it with Artie even. It was we had to handle false data. And so you're having to try and handle this false data to get them through what it is, because it's standing in the way of what they know. One of the things is how people do clay demos. I mean, that's one of the most stark examples of changes, or where you get your definitions, or what the definitions of things are. They've been
Right.
changed. Simple definitions. I already seen that. He was like, no, wait, it's like you said,
Heaps.
yeah, wait, it's this. And I'm going, no, it's this. He's like, what do you mean? That doesn't exist. Yeah, it does. Let me show you.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's that
Yep.
you don't know what you don't know. And it's hard to spot because you didn't know it existed in the first place. And that's how the narrative of Dianetics and Scientology technology has changed, is the slow degradation over time, and it's become something else and something else and something else. And they used to put on bulletins, these are the changes to the bulletins, and this is why, per what LRH says. Boom. Now they don't even put on the technical bulletins that there was a change. So now you don't have any data trail to fall back on and say, oh, okay, it's just, this is the gospel, and
Mm,
according to Dave, and this is how we operate. And you're
yep.
not getting the same thing. You're getting a dilution. Now the thing is even with diluted tech, you're still getting some gains. That's how good it works, but it isn't what you should be getting.
Right. Wow. And that was the point of like when this person was saying, "Hey, look, I got gains. You'll get gains. You can do this course outside of the church or inside of the church. It doesn't matter." I mean, but it does. It seems like it does matter. You know.
Yeah, it does,
I
because
think it does.
you're
Yeah.
you're you're dealing with two different subjects altogether, and eventually it's going to trip you up, and you're going to go, wait, what did you just say? Like Arthur did, with something as
Right.
basic as the training regimens, for the communications course. It's it's
Mm,
it's a skipped gradient to not do OTTR0 and then do TR0, or the way that they changed the end phenomena of the drill and all of this stuff, and of anything.
mm,
LRH would have said, don't you change a goddamn thing. This is how it's done. It isn't done in any other way. But the thing is you get people that are like, wow, that's really hard for people to do, and we don't want to blow them out of the water, so we're gonna make it easier for them. And that's the last thing you want to do. It's a complete disservice, and it's fraud. It's fraud. That's not Scientology. That's not Dianetics. It's not done that
yep.
way. So
And it's
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
interesting because I was actually thinking that maybe that was changed because they weren't getting end phenomena. So something's happened along the way, and everybody's just, I don't know, maybe misunderstood the end phenomena, and so therefore they changed it because it was too hard,
well,
or was it being applied correctly?
like he says, if you
I don't
if
know.
if you can't get if you can't get the results, you're not doing it right. And that's what's
Yeah.
happened to the church, is they can no longer get the results because they don't know how to train people, and they're not training people. They're training them differently. So they can't get the results that LRH got. Nothing's changed in this society. People aren't, well, it's a funny sentence. People aren't more stupid or more dumb. It's just the fact that they don't have the right ability, because they're not trained correctly. There's been an alteration along that line, that you can't get the results. Well, if you can't get the results, well, we're going to have to change it. And so this is where the church is at, because they've gotten,
Mm,
like LRH says, they've gotten reasonable, and they want to make it easier. But the thing is if you don't get the results, less people come in, and then you get these ideal orgs where there's nobody in the course room, because they're not getting real Scientology anymore.
mm.
Yeah, man.
So
Crazy.
yeah, it's
Yeah, it
quite
is
bizarre.
crazy.
But yeah, so was there anything else you wanted to cover, Joey,
Um,
on your journey?
my journey, man. Well, I'll just use where I'm at. Like, a person who was in the church, who wanted to go up the bridge, and who has felt invalidated by the church. What do we do now? Where do we start? And how do we go up the bridge?
Well, 9 times out of 10, unless they got out really early, the person needs some cleanup on, and 9 times out of 10, again, it has to do with the wrong indications in ethics as far as something that the person went through, and they were told you have to do this way, and you're a this and you're a that. So you start to get wrong indications, and this builds up charge with the person. And ethics is a personal thing, and so eventually they go, I just can't stand this anymore. I'm getting out of here. So the first thing is to get that cleaned up, and show the person the real data. Handle that false data after you get the wrong indications cleaned up, and you give them the correct indications that what you're doing and what you experienced were something other than LRH intended for you to experience. And there are, I mean, I've got stories where there were dozens and dozens of hours that had to be done to get somebody cleaned up on something because they'd been led down a path that wasn't what LRH intended. Once you get that straightened up, now you've got the person to a point to where they can return back to the regular LRH bridge with the original information, and they're like, wow, this is completely different than what I understood, but I didn't know this existed. And there you go. That's how we do it, because most of the people that come to us, I'd say 90% of the people that come to us come from the church and have been maligned in some way to where they know the tech works, but they just don't feel like being beat up anymore by the organization. Your situation is completely the same. It's exactly that.
Yeah.
So it's very much a case of do as we say, don't do as we do, which is a fundamental ARC break with almost every person that we meet.
Rules for thee and not for me. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that, and I've said this in other podcasts, when's the last time you ever saw the church do a lower condition with a public? It's never happened. Never happened.
Right.
And that's the problem. And I'm not blaming LRH for that, but I have another person that's coming out of the church, and he was dealing with certain situation with them in the services that he received, and he didn't like the services. And I said, oh, so you're in a condition of doubt. And he didn't know anything about the conditions, and I gave him the condition, and I said, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to say. And he went into the org and said, here's the deal, this is my viewpoint, I've done a doubt condition, and told Sea Org members that, and they were like, well, we can't argue with that, because his viewpoint was, this is my viewpoint on this, and that's where I'm at. I've compared this side to that side, and this is the direction that I'm heading in. I want my money back. So that's what you have to do with somebody, but they don't make people aware of this, because if they make people aware of it, what are they going to say? They can't argue. I mean, that's always the thing. Somebody says, well, I got a problem with this. I'd say, okay, this is what LRH says about this. Take it up with him. And if they understand the words, okay, they can't argue with it. Even people in the Sea Org, they see that and they go, well, that's your viewpoint. We can't argue with that, but that doesn't mean that he's going to get his money back. That's another thing. That's a whole other ball of wax. But it's an issue of, if you look at what he says, and I'm not saying you have to agree with what he says. Pretty much everything I agree with LRH on. There isn't much that I don't agree with him on. And it's so incredibly minor, it's not even worth mentioning, because the bulk of it, everything does what he says it does if you do what he says to do, period. So that's the thing, is you got to keep your own counsel. It's a code of honor thing. And if it's not true for you, it's not true for you. And that's why people leave the church, is they see
Yeah,
one thing in
absolutely.
what LRH says, and they see what the organization is doing, and they're like, these two aren't the same. And that causes
Yeah,
cognitive
absolutely.
dissonance. That's all it is. It's
Yeah,
cognitive dissonance.
yeah. You take a introductory course, which is called Personal Values and Integrity, and you read whatever's true for you is true. And then when you apply it, someone takes you aside and says, "What didn't you understand?" And you're like,
Yeah.
"No, I understood everything. It's just I just don't agree now with what you're saying." And it's like, okay, well, you know, we
You're the
need to sit you
problem.
aside with the course supervisor. Yeah,
Right,
exactly,
right. Or
exactly,
the
It's
ethics
okay.
officer.
exactly.
It's okay. Yeah. It's okay, Joey. For $5,000, we can clear that up for you, mate.
Right.
You need a life repair. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
So, so, so
they told you what, ten
no, no,
thousand
go ahead,
dollars
John.
for they told you $10,000 is what you needed in order to get your viewpoint back in line with their viewpoint. Isn't that
Yeah, it
what
was like 7 to 10K
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Did the
for
church
a
you were going
check.
to offer
For a
that
check.
service, or did you have to go to a different church to get that service?
No, for them, yeah, for down the street, literally, like I can walk for a minute and a half and go to the org, and it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
7 to 10 grand for a sec check. Okay, last question before I go to bed. It's almost 2 a.m. in
Yeah.
USA. Um, so the reason I got into Scientology is because of like I heard about it from a rich guy. And so John, you're OT8, you've done the bridge, you've had, countless hours of training and processing, and all I'm trying to do as a pre-clear, as a little guy, is try to discipline myself, figure out how to give myself a command and follow it in
Mhm.
my daily life, and do that over a long period of time where I can be successful in my personal fitness, finances, my first dynamic, second dynamic, third, fourth, the rest of my life.
Mhm.
So that's the whole reason I'm here. I wouldn't be talking to you guys. I wouldn't talk to anybody in Scientology. I would never do Scientology.
Mhm.
I grew up
Cool.
Christian, and that didn't handle the stuff that I wanted to handle. How do I do that?
You do one course, take that data and apply it to the next course, take that data and apply it to the next course. And it's a nice gradual gradient. And what you're doing right
Yeah.
now is you're learning how to study anything, not just Scientology. You're learning how to study anything. And that is probably, and you're getting student hat and pro TRs, and you can take this data and then you'll understand pro TRs is one of, if not the, outside of the data evaluators course, one of the two most valuable courses. When I did the bridge, pro TRs was before student hat, and that was a real Hail Mary play, but I got through it. And because I didn't have student hat, I just had the basic study manual, but I at least knew the basics on how to study. But the thing is if you've got something that allows you to understand, as long as the data that you're trying to read is usable to study a subject, you can get through that and you can apply it in life to anything. You get on pro TRs. Okay, now you're looking at the end phenomena of pro TRs is to be able to handle any social situation, no matter how rough, with communication alone. That is the verbatim end phenomena of pro TRs. And if you can do that, it will save your life. It saved mine 3 times, literally. And that gives you the
Wow.
tools to communicate with other people and for people to take you seriously, and for you to be able to confront situations and go, this is not something I want a part of. This is something I want a part of. And then you go from there, and then you can get trained as an auditor, or you can get auditing, book 1, or you can get metered auditing and go up the bridge. And your awareness increases, and you find that your dynamics align, and you're able to do things you weren't able to do before. Stops go out of the way, and now you can survive to the degree that you want to survive if you have the, wait for it, self-discipline / confront to do so. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Because confront is
Amazing,
everything.
man.
Yeah. Confront is
Yeah.
everything.
Mm.
So
Thank you, man.
thanks for being here, Joey, Artie. We'll do another podcast
Thank you
on
both.
Wednesday. I hope this was illuminating for people to get a fresh pair of eyes on things and what's going on in 2025 in comparison to the independent field and the corporation of the Church of Scientology International. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment on YouTube or come to the College of Independent Scientology.com and get on a free course, get a free auditing session, and make your way up the bridge or get cleaned up if you've been in the corporate church or you're just starting new. Either way, we're here for you. Namaste, and we love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.